Welcome to Parsha with Purpose, where each Parsha becomes a guide to living with meaning, serenity, and joy. The Parsha opens with the words, "At the end of 2 years." These 2 years are counted from the final moment of last week's Parsha, which ends with the devastating words, "The chief steward did not remember Yosef, but he forgot him." That verse begs a question. If he didn't remember Yosef, isn't it obvious that he forgot him? The Bergen-Belsen Rebbe explains that not remembering and forgetting are not the same thing. There are things in life that are too painful to remember, yet impossible to forget. The Holocaust, he said, is one of those realities, too painful to relive, and yet impossible and forbidden to erase. And the Rebbe didn't speak from theory. The Bergen-Belsen Rebbe himself lived this truth. It was Erev Chanukah in Bergen-Belsen. That day, Jews had been taken out and murdered at random. Their bodies were still lying on the ground as night fell. And yet, the remaining Jews gathered. They found an old shoe. They scraped together oil from shoe polish. They pulled threads from a garment to make a wick. And they prepared to light Chanukah candles. The Bergen-Belsen Rebbe began the brachas, and he said the first, "Ladlik ner Chanukah." He said the second, "Sha'asa nisim l'avosenu." And then he came to Shechianu, who has kept us alive, sustained us, and brought us to the season. He paused and hesitated, and then he said it. Later Drew approached him and said bitterly, "Rebbe, I understand the first bracha. I can even understand the second. But how, here, surrounded by death, could you thank Hashem for keeping us alive and bringing us to this time?" The Rebbe answered quietly, "I struggled too. But then I looked around at these Jews who, in the worst of circumstances, surrounded by death and destruction, got together and insisted on fulfilling the mitzvah of lighting Chanukah candles, even in these conditions. I said to myself, for this alone, one can and should make the blessing, Shechianu." I've been thinking about this a lot the last 2 weeks, when this idea feels painfully current. And last week, the video of the 6 hostages, emaciated, missing limbs, stripped of freedom, safety, certainty, lighting Chanukah candles. We saw light kindled where darkness was meant to crush the spirit. And then the violent terror attack in Sydney, reminding us that darkness has not disappeared. In fact, the world seems to be engulfed in it. But we've also seen the Jewish response to it. More mitzvahs, more achdus, more light. And so Mikeitz comes to remind us of something essential. At the end, Mikeitz, of 2 years' time, Pharaoh dreamed. We know the details of the dreams of Yosef's freedom, of his elevation to becoming the second most powerful man in Egypt. The word Keitz means the end, and the Midrash links our verse to the words of Eov of Job. Keitzam l'chashech. He sets an end to darkness, to every limit that man probes to rocks in deepest darkness. And the Midrash continues, Hashem assigns limits to times of darkness, to which the commentators suggest that even times of darkness have a purpose. There are moments when redemption is invisible, when Yosef is still in prison, when the chief steward still hasn't remembered, when the dream hasn't yet made sense. The Torah doesn't say after 2 years Yosef was freed. It says at the end of 2 years. And perhaps it's teaching us that sometimes the end has arrived, even if you can't see it yet. Chanukah is not the denial of darkness. It's the refusal to surrender to it. And Mikeitz teaches us this quiet, defiant truth. You don't need to be out of the prison to light a candle. You don't need certainty to choose faith. And you don't need answers to create meaning. Sometimes the greatest miracle is not the salvation, but the decision to bring light before it comes. Good Shabbos and a Freilichen Chanukah.